It's countdown to kickoff with Bud Light Game Time. Driven.
I guess you can go.
Lexus of Oklahoma City.
Up.
And it should be nothing but a dress rehearsal tonight as Oklahoma gets to open up its real season next Saturday in Nebraska. Alex back along with Jim Traber here on Campus Corner. Oklahoma, Kent State tonight. As the Sooners, a huge 32-point favorite against Kent State tonight as they get ready next week to open up at on the road at Nebraska. So, put these games together, try to get the young players, Jim. Hope you play the same coach that you played with them a week ago, not make a lot of mistakes as it gets serious after this. Because you got Nebraska, you got K-State here, you got TC, they got Texas down.
Well, and you and I were just talking a little bit. I think Kansas State's pretty good. I think their defense is really good. So we'll see. I mean, they're not playing great teams, but just look like they're pretty good. But, yeah, this is one of those games that you continue the momentum from last week. Maybe see some other players possibly. Kent State's offense is not bad. Their defense stinks. I mean, OU should drop at least 45 tonight if they're going to care. But, yeah, the offense isn't bad. This will be another good test. And then, frankly, I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but Kent State's offense might be about as good as Nebraska's offense. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, I know that's ridiculous, and the players aren't the same, but I like what Kent State. I watched some of Kent State against Washington now. They do some pretty interesting things, so this will be a nice test for OU.
Well, they were the top team.
Number 8 last year, they averaged over 40 points a game, so they were in the MAC championship game. So it'll be, this will be a good test. I mean, you should win comfortably, but
I'd probably say they're a little bit better than UTEP. Yeah,
I agree. I think they're better than UTEP. I agree with you. Now, again, their defense, if OU's offense struggles at all, that will not be good. They should light this defense up. But Kent State will go now. They're going to go boom, 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 boom. So, which may be a mistake, but that's what they do, you know?
Well, yeah, you better get first down. You go boom, boom, boom.
That's exactly right.
Oklahoma, when they play against really good defense, you better get first down.
Yeah, I don't think OU is going to show the speed of their offense until next week. You know, I think they'll show a little bit. Remember last week they showed a little bit. I think they'll show a little bit more today. I think next week when they go to Nebraska, I think they will get it moving.
You know what we didn't talk about much last week? I was really impressed on defense. Was the speed of the
Yeah, no, they can run. I was impressed with everything about their speed and their conditioning and their strength. You know me. I mean, people probably get sick of me tired, but I'm talking about it. But I think Schmitty is invaluable. Whenever he's being paid, he should be paid more. I think that dude is so important. Of the months that none of us get to watch him, that's when it's his time. And these dudes are in good shape. They are. They look really, really good. And then a guy I know who's close to the program, who sees these guys like in their shorts and shirts and stuff, says that the linemen look totally different, Al. Totally different, their bodies and everything.
Yeah, and again, a sizzling day. All will be cool.
It was supposed to come in, but it's going to come in about game time or so. So it'll be cooler. Tonight we'll have a really nice post-game show. Be very comfortable.
So, yeah.
The high tomorrow is supposed to be 76.
Beautiful. A game that you want to maybe again see some people like, I think Javante Barnes, Brent Venables spoke really highly of him. And we talked about the end of the game last week. A freshman out of Nevada, which has a burst. He has some power also.
You know, Al, you've been watching this game a long time. You know when you see a kid, when they've got something that looks a little different than the normal kid. Like, for instance, OU fans don't get upset. The quarterback in Texas, Ewers, he's got a chance to be really special. You would agree?
Big time special.
I mean, really good. And I saw that out of Barnes just watching him last week. I think he is a kid that down the road could be a superstar running back at the University of Oklahoma. I really do.
So I think today's game we're going to get sort of a hint, maybe, if they're going to use him more, if they use him more than they did a week ago.
You think so? Because I don't know how much he'll play. I mean, when we get Port. You?
I kind of think he'll get in there more with the first team.
Now, you and I have sat in this exact chair, and we have told people Who cares about the third string running back, right? How many times have we said that? But was it last year, a couple years before that? They were like, oh, what are we going to do? They never play. So,
but what I'm saying is
because
he
he's so
can
good.
get first and team,
Okay.
be with the first or second team.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, if he's just that good, well, then you got to play him,
Right.
right?
And that's why a game like this, you maybe use it more with that, get him in earlier instead of just pop-up time. So we'll see if he plays meaningful downs today.
Yeah, well, I know one thing. He's one of the dudes that jumps off the page, am I right?
Yeah, he does jump off the page. The short check kid, I have no idea what's going on. I've asked a lot of people. No one seems to know.
You think he's hurt?
I don't know. I don't know why Brent wouldn't. Brent is, when anybody's hurt, Brent is sit down.
I know.
So I don't know what's going on. So
that is a weird deal.
The fact that he wasn't dressed out last week was, I thought, really good.
I don't know. I will tell you this thing. If Barnes continues to look really good, it'd be interesting to see if Sawcheck even stays. You know how that goes nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because but you need a lot. You need more than one running back.
You need more than one.
But Mazers has got what, 2 years left?
I don't know how many years.
Yeah, it's weird. The COVID
with this
thing.
COVID thing is just insane.
Gray, is this Gray's last year?
I think with COVID he could come back again.
Okay.
I think. I mean,
I don't understand any of it. No idea.
Well, let's talk about Texas and what I said. Texas better than I thought they were. Alabama's not as good as I thought they were. That's it.
There's a lot of things to delve into in that Alabama-Texas game. First, I thought Alabama played about as bad of a football game as I think I've seen an Alabama team.
But you worried they can't run the ball?
We'll see. Let's see what happens. I think Texas is pretty good.
Yeah, and then Clark said they were about receivers, and the receivers couldn't get open.
Well, if the receivers can't get open, then they're going to go about 9-3. We'll see. I don't know. I still think they're really good.
I think they're really good. I don't think they should be number one. Should they?
Probably not. I told you Georgia should have been number one.
Without a doubt. I mean, you struggle on the road against a Texas team that can't stop the run.
But I will say this: every single wide receiver that played for Alabama on that team, everyone in the country won.
I agree,
so
but
maybe they're not that good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What Class said in the spring, they had problem getting open. They have problems today.
Well, we will see. I mean, I think Texas played a very inspired football game. I thought that Alabama did not look as good as I thought they would. Heck, that was my T&W Tire Lock of the week. So I mean, what an idiot I look like. But you know what? Great teams do when they don't play well, they find a way to win.
No doubt.
But I will tell you this, and I think you agree. I think if Ewers doesn't get hurt, I think Texas wins the game.
I agree. I think he's an NFL guy. You know, we'll find out. Matt, any Keysington, anything about that injury?
I will look.
Okay.
I know it's his left shoulder.
Yep, he was in a sling.
I heard Curtis say this earlier. It did look a lot like the Sam Bradford injury, where you fall on your opposite arm and the shoulder gets messed up. There's been a lot of those. I remember when Aaron Rodgers did it. You get hit, you're going down, you're keeping the ball over here, and you fall on that shoulder. It's a tough injury.
Boy, he's good.
He is really good. Yes.
Boy,
really
the poise he showed, arm strength.
And they got a couple of receivers that are really good.
Yeah.
And their running back is really good. And
Sarkisian, after the game, said that his Quinn Ewers injury looks like a clavicle sprain. He's going to get an MRI.
So what the hell does that mean?
Clavicle is
nothing.
Your
that says
collarbone.
It's the stuff around your collarbone.
Yeah,
right around your collarbone. But you think it might be a clavicle sprain, and it could be broken. So
it could be broken. Yeah, we don't know.
It could be separated. So normally, when that happens, there's some sort of separation. It may not be really big. There's grades of the separation. But boy, if he's healthy, they're going to be Texas. Is going to be good. And you know what? The Card kid got hurt too, and he didn't do a bad job.
No.
I give him some credit. He's not as good as Ewers, but Ewers has got a chance, Al.
Yeah, he just I was so impressed with him. But Bryce Young showed why he was a Heisman Trophy winner there. Made some great plays. What I don't like what they do, it's like Flat said last week. He ran for 100 over her reluctantly. It sounds like he doesn't want to run. They have no design run plays for him. The guy can run. I mean,
it could be that he's trying to stay healthy for the draft now.
Well, you know what? That told me put your red flag up for me with him.
Well, I agree with you, and maybe they'll run it more down the road. I don't know. What I know is that I thought Texas. First of all, I want to go back. I thought those young kids for Texas on the offensive line did a pretty
I
nice
think they
job.
did an okay job. Yes.
Yeah,
Alabama's front's really, really, really.
and then the big fella made a huge play
Yep.
at the end.
Yep.
And they still made the field goal. I mean, think about it. If they don't miss that stupid field goal at the end of the first half,
Well-
I got to tell you something. We got a bunch of people out here. Show of hands. How many of you were rooting for Texas? Show your hand. Well, then y'all weren't standing here because they were cheering for Texas. I mean, I couldn't believe that people were out here cheering for Texas. You did want Texas to win. Why? Because you hate Alabama so bad? Worse than Texas? Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, all you got to know, did the OU coaches want Texas to win? No. Every OU coach wanted Alabama to kick Texas' butt.
Yeah, I
Recruiting.
don't understand. Just didn't understand. I was down here watching the game, and there were a bunch of OU fans cheering for Texas, and I didn't understand that theory.
You and I talked about that forever. About they don't understand. When Texas wins, it's not good for OU. It's not good for OSU.
No, you're exactly right. I was getting some messages. on Instagram from Texas fans who were saying, the 2 Oklahoma schools better be ready this year. And I was like, I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you. They look good. But why would anybody cheer for Texas then?
No,
I guess it's just because Alabama's so daggone good that people are sick of it. But you don't want Texas to win.
No. To get
I will
because
admit,
then you go. Well, if they won, then we go out. Go. Texas is back.
Well, and listen, you might even be able to say it now.
Yes,
we'll see.
Because
we'll
if
see.
Ewers stayed healthy, they look like a really, really good team.
Yeah, I will admit for the OU fans, it was a hard game to figure out who to cheer for. I'm not going to disagree because I know y'all hate both teams. But for me, I just don't know how you can cheer for Texas in that situation. But I guess it worked out perfectly, right? Alabama barely wins. They're not as good. But Texas, boy, Ewers is good, man. Ewers is really, really,
and
really
Worthy,
good.
they compare him to Hollywood Brown, which is an interesting player.
Worthy. And the other kid, what's his name? Matt Hitchinson? What's his name, Matt? The other kid. The other wide receiver. What is it?
and Robinson and Johnson are really good running backs.
No, they're loaded at the position. Yeah. And if that offensive line blocks, they got a chance. Yeah, that game down there in I'll tell you, Texas.
You're talking about Jordan Whittington.
Yeah,
Who had
Whittington. Thank you.
7 catches for 64.
Yeah, and what did Worthy have?
5 for 97.
Yeah, that's a nice little combination. It really is. And then, like you said, they got a nice combination at running back. So if Ewers isn't healthy, that team's going to be okay. If he is healthy, you got to watch out for him, no doubt. That'll be a.
And they get West Virginia. What do they got, Matt? What do they have? They got Tech. They go to Tech. They got West Virginia.
While he's looking that up, I was just.
So they have Texas San Antonio, and then at Tech, West Virginia at home, then OU.
So Tech in West Virginia and San Antonio, who's not a horrible team. San Antonio. That won't be a.
They gave Houston all they wanted.
Absolutely, they're not a bad football team.
They ought to be 4-1 going to the Cotton Bowl.
Right? And they're almost 5-0, but we all thought that
Yep.
was impossible. So, and they should definitely, even though they lost, they should move in the top 25.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No doubt. Let us take a break. It's countdown to kickoff Bud Light Game Time live from the historic Campus Corner in Norman in our RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studio, driven by Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma City. Got the city part. I apologize. We'll come back with a lot more.
Mark
Rogers is going to lead it off next on the Animal. Don't go away. I don't know.
on historic campus. Join myself, Al Eschbach, Jimmy Traber, Oklahoma, Kent State. Tonight, 6 o'clock, join us, Mark Rogers. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm good, Al. Good to talk to you.
What?
You're not good to talk to me.
I haven't heard from you yet.
Oh,
Good to talk to you, Jim.
usually when there's two people on and one of them says good to talk to you, and says how you doing, you should say good to talk to you guys. It's not good to talk to you.
I was just happy to talk to Al.
That's what
We'll
I
see how
thought.
it goes with you.
That's what I thought. That's okay. I understand.
What do you, hey, Mark, you think Brent Venables,
Yeah.
Jim earlier, some of the young players, you think guys like Barnes maybe sees action with before they just mop-up role? What do you think about any other guys you want to get a look at before the real season begins next week?
I kind of sensed the depth chart last week that there was a lot of just placed on leadership and seniors and juniors and upperclassmen and things like that. I thought Devontae Barnes ran as well as anybody. I thought he had kind of a little bit of a spark to it. You can tell he's still a little raw. That fumble, I don't think he's that well with anybody, but I like his juice. So I was just kind of the running back last week. I thought they were okay. You know, I mean, there was a couple of good runs by Gray. Major was pretty good in the red zone, but other than that, I don't see a difference maker in the backfield yet.
Yeah, I think Barnes is a difference maker. That's what I believe. I mean, just watching him a little bit, he just looks different than just your kind of good, solid running back. I think he's special.
Well, I think that's a possibility. Again, like I said, I thought that he had maybe the most Barnes of anybody that they had out there. I'm sure that's kind of the way that it'll go with Brent is if you get out and you earn your playing time, then you got a chance to move up on the depth chart. So I think we'll probably see some of the older guys again this week and then see what guys can do when they get to the game later.
What about Kent State? Not a bad offensive team.
Not bad. Not great on defense. Love the uniform. I mean, I think they're next level. It's pretty impressive. That's cool what they did. I really thought Kenny Carlson did a good job on that article with them staying in Tulsa this week and not dropping back across the country. So I'm sure they'll be worn out by the time they play Georgia next week. So that's a pretty rough start to the season for them.
What a schedule. My gosh, they certainly, obviously, they needed the money, and they're going to get it.
They're going to earn some money.
Yeah, I agree with you, though. I think Kent State's defense is really bad, but their offense is pretty good. I could see the final score of this game. I'm not lying to you. I could see it like 62-20. I really could. I could see something like that big because I just think OU's going to light them up.
Well, if you really like comparisons, I mean, I think Kent State, their pick will be second in their division in the MAC. I mean, I think they're probably the equal of Central Michigan. Maybe not as much returning experience as Central Michigan had, but I think the team that's capable of being as good as Central Michigan was on offense is Stillwater.
Yeah, and that little quarterback for Central Michigan was pretty good now. That kid can play a little bit.
Yeah, he was good. I think they fooled OSU on their game plan. I don't think Oklahoma State expected them to throw the ball around like that.
Let me, are you in the same thought that Jim and I, Quentin Ewers, he could be special?
He looked good today. It's been a great day for the Big 12. I think even though Texas lost that game, they played with a backup quarterback most of the way and still hung in there. Kansas State just absolutely throttled Missouri. So there's a couple other games that the Big 12 has looked good in. I think later today, Iowa State, Iowa, Baylor, and BYU, even the OSU game with Arizona State. So it gains a lot of credibility to the conference when really we only have about 3 or 4 weeks to kind of compare teams playing out of conference games. I'll say this, though, man, I think this game to me was Texas put a lot into this clearly in game planning during the summer and all of that stuff. I think that Texas is better. I just thought that Alabama wasn't ready for what they walked into today. I think Texas outcoached them, which is kind of hard to say. I think Alabama does have some deficiencies, but I don't know that I'm ready to say that Texas defense is completely back just by what they did to Alabama today. But it is certainly a step in the right direction for Texas to play that well.
I thought Al and I were talking. I think Sarkisian had a brilliant game plan at the beginning of that game, Mark. I mean, it looks like he's been working on that game plan since about April.
No, that's what I mean. I just think that Texas, this was they've been pointing to this game for a long, long time, had a lot on the line, And Alabama, I think, just, I mean, they walked in there, nothing much for Texas on tape that looked great. And I don't think they played with their best effort. So we'll see what Saban does with his team after today, because they certainly weren't very good. But Texas, if they can block people, they got all kinds of weapons on offense. It is too bad that Ewers went down, because I do think that, he's a guy that was thought to be a really good player, and I think he is. I think they solved their quarterback problem. It's going to be next year probably before we see him again.
Well, and we'll see. They play Oklahoma in 4 weeks, so we'll see what his availability is going to be. But he certainly early in that game, he makes all the throws, man. And I love his poise too, staying in the pocket.
I think you got to give Hudson Card a lot of credit. He's basically playing on one leg.
I said the same thing, Mark. I totally agree with you, man. I think he's a little above average, playing against a really good, supposedly a good defense with one leg, and I thought he fought his tail off.
Yeah, no doubt. I think everybody in Texas did today. I mean, I disappointing as that is, they got a tough game next week. That's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be really tough for them to get back up and ready to play after coming so close to a game that would have meant so much to them.
I totally agree. Mentally, that game in between Tech and the Big 12 start with a little bit of a sleeper kind of team like Texas San Antonio, they'll have to bring it. They'll be down. There's no way they're going to be up for the game. I can promise you that.
Right.
Well,
yeah, especially when it sets in with a team like we're playing with a backup quarterback and things like that. So I tell you what, I mean, I thought this was dumb at the time. Where did this controversy come? Is Texas just kind of destined to have issues all the time? How was there any controversy over Ewers' cars? I mean, Ewers was the guy that was brought in, that had all the hype, been tremendously successful in high school at South Lake Carroll, one of the more highly rated quarterbacks they've recruited in a long period of time. I don't know why people thought Hudson Card was going to win that job.
Well, I mean,
like Kyler Murray's
going to say, like Kyler Murray, they can name him the star.
Yeah.
So my question would be, when did that whole thing line up whenever Texas started class? Was that an effort just to keep Card from transferring?
Maybe. That could be it. But everybody knew Ewers down there was going to be the starter the second he stepped on the daggone camp.
Right.
I
agree.
That's 100% right. I mean, Brian Davis, I had him on, and right at the beginning of Texas practice, he was like, come on, this isn't even a deal. I mean, Ewers is going to be the quarterback. So,
But Matt Meyer has a point, because these guys are so worried about, will he be upset, will he leave, all these other things. And, Card wasn't as good as Thompson last time.
Yeah, I guess that's okay if he could have left. But I mean, I don't make him feel like he's going to be the starter. I mean, or let that stuff get out there.
Right. Well,
tell you
what I know, real quick. We all saw Ewers. I mean, we didn't watch him much last week. We all saw him for one quarter today, and all of us went, wow. So they've been watching him every day. They're going wow too, right now.
Yeah, which high school did he go to, Mark?
South Lake Carroll.
Yeah, South Lake Carroll's put out about 50 quarterbacks, right?
Well, them, Allen, and all the Austin schools that put all the quarterbacks out there. So
Yeah. It's interesting because him to go to Ohio State, just was crazy. We all kind of knew it. We knew what they had up there. I can't believe he didn't go to Texas in the first place.
I wonder if he didn't like Tom Herman.
Maybe.
That could be an issue there. But, yeah, no, he was ready to play his senior year last year and went to Ohio State. Walked away from his senior year in high school. I mean, so he's just a true freshman, really. I mean, that's pretty impressive what he was able to do today.
So, obviously, they're saying they think it's sprained clavicle. They're going to do some, X-rays and MRAs and eyes and all that stuff. But, boy, it looked a lot like the Sam Bradford and the Aaron Rodgers injuries, Mark, where, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That AC joint sprain or whatever, it's a fracture, I don't know. I think that he knew maybe more than anybody else. His immediate reaction was, that it felt.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. Yeah. What you brought up some of the other games in the Big 12, Mark. This BYU Baylor game. It's interesting, Mark. You follow betting very, very closely. BYU loses their top 2 receivers midweek. They're done. And the line hasn't moved. Mark, you got any idea what's going on there?
Well, I think Vegas is probably waiting to see what Baylor has. They lost a lot off of last year's team. And I think it's a good referendum on Dave Aranda as a coach in the program. He's in there with Matt Rule's players. I do think Baylor is going to be good. I think that they had some success in the portal. I think Blake Shapen's a good quarterback. So I think that Baylor's got a chance to play close tonight, no matter what the line's kind of doing. I will say that BYU's got 10 starters back on defense. Home game, altitude, huge crowd, tough environment, first road game ever for Shapen. There's a lot going for BYU with this one.
By the way, Jimmy Parrish just texted me, said I-35 is disaster going south. Yes.
Good thing we're already
No
here.
bueno.
Good thing we're already here. Any other games today, Mark, that do anything for you?
Yeah, it's a weird day. A&M's behind Appalachian State. That offense must really be struggling not to score on a defense that gave up 65 last week. Washington State's beating Wisconsin right now. It just feels like this week's kind of a
Notre Dame's
odd week.
losing
There's a lot
too.
of crazy things
Notre
happening.
Dame's losing to
Yeah,
Marshall.
Notre Dame's losing at home to Marshall.
Yeah. I wonder. Let me ask you a question. Georgia Southern. They're not a terrible football team. Nebraska's got to be looking forward to the OU game, don't you think? Could that be close at all? You think?
I mean, almost all the Nebraska games are close. It was kind of close last week from North Dakota. Yeah, I could be close. I think so. I do think. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you. I think we're going to see a little bit of a similar type of situation next week with OU and Nebraska. I mean, I think that team will be playing for their coach. It's a game to look forward to for a long time. It'll be a crazy atmosphere up there. First road game for a lot of the OU guys. OU's a better football team than Nebraska, but that's going to be a close game.
So, you're saying that the OU Nebraska game you think could be similar to the Alabama Texas game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that for Scott Frost, think of what it would be. Now, again, I don't think he's any good as a coach, and I think OU's a better team, but I do think Nebraska's got talent. We've talked about this before. They're not a terrible team. We've made a lot of fun of them because they lose all these close games, but I think that they'll be ready. This is a huge opportunity for them to kind of prove everybody wrong at a home game, and I expect it to be close.
If you were a Nebraska fan, I'll ask both of you. If you were a Nebraska fan, and I'm not one talking about the cycle one, I'm talking about the good, solid one, would you want Scott Frost to keep his job?
No.
Mark?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's the right guy for the job. I just think he's just not the answer. I think he might be a good coordinator, but I don't think he's a good head coach. I can see why you want to pull for your guy, why you would want to pull for your guy, but I think if you think about it, it doesn't really matter if you're a former player as a head coach. I think OU fans were certainly happy with Bob Stoops over John Blake.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's similar to John Blake, is it not, Al?
Yeah, although John was better coach than Scott Frost. Scott Frost.
Although,
I heard I've said that before. He's got a better record.
Yeah.
I will agree, but let's not forget that Scott Frost did really well at Central Florida. So he had a decent stint as a head coach.
No, you're right. At Nebraska.
So, Nebraska,
Yeah.
he's been terrible. So, all right, let's ask you real quick about the OSU Arizona State game. Boy, that coach out there, Herm Edwards, seems like he's almost lost his job about 2 years in a row. But everybody loves the guy; he's a great dude and everything. But he had that one good year, but it's kind of gone downhill. Mark, what do you think about that game?
Think about Arizona State. I think after they played last week and held Northern Arizona down, and Emory Jones was pretty good, that people kind of forgot about all the troubles that they had in the offseason. I'm surprised this line is as low as it is. I know Oklahoma State's defense looked bad last week, but I do think they were good against the run. I think they'll play it a little more straight up this week. I think OSU was lost in the fact of that defensive performance that we all kind of were so shocked by, with the fact that they scored 51 points in 30 minutes, 40 seconds. They got an explosive offense that I think could be the best in the conference, and so I think they'll put up a lot of points.
I think. Now, don't you think OSU's going to score a lot?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that line's too low.
What about here, Mark? What is it, 33? Is that what this game is?
Yeah, I thought it seemed a little high. I'm sure it's high for a reason. I think probably Kent State's a better team than UTEP. And I think everybody kind of turned off the gas last week. It was hot, and the teams really didn't do a whole lot in the second half. Kind of ran the football. we'll see if Kent State wants to kind of push the tempo. If their defense is, really poor, then I think OU can get out there and score quite a bit of points. And I think also too, OU, I'm sure Venables and Seth Root and those guys are going to want to get a turnover or two this week, making a big emphasis on the takeaway. So we'll probably see a little bit more stuff in the Oklahoma defense than we did last week.
I think OU's got a chance to score 6 tonight. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And I tell you, the line is interesting because I think Kent State could backdoor it somehow, but I don't know if they score 60. I don't know if they can drop off 28. That'd be a little bit tough. But
Yeah, no. I always said they are a little better than you can. So it's a nice test for the secondary because they're going to go quick. So it's a good test for defensively. Offensively, defensively, Kent State's better.
no, there should be very few punts today from OU. All right, Marcus, but give us a score on this game.
All right, I'm going to say OU 55, Kent State 21. Wait, 28. I got Kent State in the points with my pick this week, so I got to have it within the 31.
I got Kent State in the points too, because I think of the back door being open. But I don't know, man. We'll see. OU can score on this team. Thanks, Mark. Good job. Appreciate it.
All right, great to talk to you, Jim.
Thank you. See, afterwards I was great. Not before, but afterwards it was very impressive. See what I showed him, Al?
Yeah.
He wasn't excited to talk to me before, but then after everything I brought, he was
He
like,
finally became polite.
great job. That's what he said.
Yep.
Huh? I feel good now. I might drop the mic. Countdown to Kickoff, Bud Light Game Time, brought to you by the all-new Lexus NX with an available 14-inch touchscreen and the most advanced standard active safety system in a Lexus. So you can focus on what matters most, experiencing amazing at Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma City. We're in the RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studio right here on Campus Corner. Coming up, we will talk to Mr. Craig Humphreys on the home of the Thunder, the end.
tax resolution and accounting firm. IRS problems? No problem. Call 405-451-3399.
Okay, Craig's ready. You're up.
We're back. It's our Alex back over here on Star Campus Corner, Oklahoma. Going against Penn State at 6 p.m. tonight. Join us, Craig Humphreys. Hey, doing, Craig?
Look good, Al. Hey, Craig. Craig, what's going on?
Weapons of the game. I'm going to go. Oh, we talked about it last week. They got to get the ball in walk. They got to farm it.
Totally agree. Al, Craig, what are your thoughts on farming?
Well, that's their biggest weapon. So, yeah, give it the ball. I'm all for it. Need to do a better job of that. Still want to see more. Eric Gray, I thought, looked good last week as far as the running back goes, but most of their weapons are wide receiver, right, Al?
Yeah, they are really talented. And I want another guy. We talked about Javonte Barnes, Gavin Freeman.
I care about Gavin Freeman more in a couple of years, but he certainly seems like he can help right now, too, Greg.
Well, they act like he's making plays like that. They act like when they saw it last week in a game, it wasn't the first time that they've seen it. So, some guys just have that playmaking ability. So, yeah, give him an opportunity.
Al, here's a question for both you guys. You guys have been around a lot longer than I have. You got a freshman walk-on that has made an impact at OU? Walk-on now. Ever?
Well, Drake Stoops.
As a freshman? Matt Meyer, look him up. What did he do as a freshman?
Here comes your man, good.
That was good. I'm trying to think, Craig, can you think of any walk-on freshmen?
Walk-on. Now, Joe Don Looney wasn't a walk-on, was he, Al?
No.
But remember the famous game, Al, where he said, give me the ball and I'll go score? Was it against Syracuse?
Against Syracuse in 1962.
Yeah. And he goes like 60 or something for a touchdown, but that's not a walk-on. Now Craig's right. Yeah, walk-on situation is hard to remember.
Let the drums go by. Sounded good. Craig, we got to get into the Texas-Alabama game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Scoot. Well, for one thing, I want a pizza from Scooter Proctor on that one, so thank you very much, Scooter. Mark came on the other day saying it's going to be a blowout, so I said, blowout? I mean, will you give me 30? And Mark, he declined, and then Scooter, he texted in saying he'd give me 28, so I took 28. Listen, I hadn't seen Quinn Ewers play. I really didn't have much of an opinion on that game beforehand because I didn't get to see him last week. Quinn Ewers threw a party on Alabama and got injured 31 seconds to go in the first quarter. Heck, he still had more yardage than Bryce Young until late in the game, but he throws for 134 in not even a quarter of that game. But my opinion on that one, Trabe, is that Texas should have won the game. I thought, hey, listen, and this is not just coming on to complain about the officiating, but I'll give you the guilty parties when it happened and how much it cost them. But first, Kool-Aid holds on to Jatavian Sanders in the end zone. Remember on the fade route early in the game, left side, and he is flat holding his arm down. It should have been first and goal at the 1 yard line. They end up with only 3 points out of that. All right, that's 4 points right there. But heck, early when Ewers was in there, remember Worthy had the drop in the end zone. Sanders was open in the end zone, and he overthrew him. He just didn't have time. But then later, after Ewers is gone, they're going the other way. Second quarter, and that Terrion Arnold gets away with pulling on Worthy's shoulder pad. It's a deep ball. Worthy's going to have it for a touchdown, but he pulls him back. Then, how about the face mask on the reverse later? Jordan Battle on Keelan Robinson of Texas. They had him on the reverse. Great call, and he grabs him by the face mask, pulls him down. They only get 3 out of that. Then they had the bad snap right before halftime, remember? They should have had 7. End up with a bad snap on the field goal, get nothing out of that one. But that one, the Jordan Battle face mask on Robinson, that came early in the fourth quarter and resulted in only a field goal. But Texas left a bunch of points off the board.
Wow, Craig, you're killing the refs.
Well, no, I'm just telling you. I mean, but Trey, every one of those you can look.
They were
up,
bad. They were.
Yeah.
Even the announcers were saying.
And they were big, like the one on Kool-Aid. McKinstry, I mean, on Sanders, there's a big difference between having to take a field goal or first and goal at the 1 yard line, and he clearly was holding him in the end zone. Some of them,
I didn't understand. One of the weirdest plays I've ever seen is the one with the safety, then all that stuff that happened. That was the craziest play I've ever seen, right?
Well, and I guess
the play hit the Texas helmet, right?
Since it was deflected, I guess that they're saying, that they couldn't call the intentional grounding in the end zone. He clearly was grounding the ball in the end zone. The ball ended up going out in the left flat where there was no receiver. There was no receiver where he threw it. Clearly didn't get to the line. I guess he was saved by the deflection. But for those refs to immediate, first they called targeting and roughing the passer. What game are they watching? Seriously, yeah. I don't know. But Texas, they can blame them. I mean, hey, listen, give Bryce Young credit for driving them down and getting the field goal at the end of the game. But really, before that, I mean, when you look at this game, guys, McClellan had the 81-yarder for a touchdown. Right? But when you looked at it, and when all was said and done, I think Alabama had 3 more yards than Texas. With all those yards they had in the fourth quarter and getting 81 on that one play and so forth. In a game with this wasn't like Texas got 4 plus 4 turnovers. There were no turnovers in this game. Texas just dominated a bunch of
and it's just shocking Alabama can't run the ball. I mean, on Texas. I mean, that's shocking. I mean, just shocking. And then the fourth quarter, he said, what? Saban goes, I know we can't run the ball. Let's pass it every time. So give Saban credit.
I mean, they end up with 161, but like you said, Al, they got half of that on one carry. Alabama did. So, I mean, Texas played them on pretty even terms, if not better than even terms, most of the day, losing their quarterback who looked darn good after one quarter, and then their second teamer is playing on one leg. Scooter has asked me, he said, who's the third teamer? And they showed him number 14 right. They said it's from Austin. So I don't know, but I think my bottom line is that Texas looked much improved defensively. Yes, they're starting a couple of true freshmen in the offensive line. I didn't think they did that great of a job blocking in the offensive line, but you look up at the end of the game, even though Bijan Robinson only ran for 57 yards, he still had, 130 yards when you had his 73 receiving yards that he had receiving. So he's dangerous. Worthy showed how dangerous he was. He had 5 for 97, and they were interfering with him all day long. That Jatavian Sanders is on Johnson's weapon. Whittington had a number of short catches in the first half for first downs. Jordan Whittington, and not to mention Bijan Robinson. So, no, they got a ton of weapons even without you.
Okay, Craig. So is it more that Alabama's massively overrated, or is it more that Texas is massively underrated?
I think part of it is that Texas was ready to go. They were psyched. It was maybe the best crowd they've ever had in Texas.
Had a great game plan, didn't they? But Sarkisian had a great game plan at the beginning.
And Trey,
they were rolling.
I hear you say this all the time. Don't come in here and say, "Oh, well, Alabama just took it lightly, and Alabama just really didn't take them seriously," and so forth. No, if Alabama was the number one team before the game, you got to give Texas a heck of a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
So I walk away from this game saying, yeah, Bama's still got a lot of work to do. I tell you one thing, Saban, I mean, Quinn Ewers is not the first one ever to throw a party on Nick Saban. I mean, Johnny Manziel did it a couple of times. Heck, Trevor Knight even did it one time. I mean, Alabama's been thrown on before, but they got to clean some stuff up there. No, Alabama's still a very good team. They went into I don't know many teams that would have gone into Austin and won today.
I will say that Ewers, if he doesn't get hurt, I think they win. I think Texas.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to say, but he really looked good. Huh?
And Al and I started to show off. He's got a chance to be a superstar. He just popped off the page when you watched him play. Did he not, Al?
Oh yeah, I mean his poise, the arm strength, accuracy. And you point out Worthy dropped the touchdown in the end zone.
He's good.
Yeah, he and again, if Art Manning wants to play as a freshman, he needs to go to another school.
I'll tell you that. I mean,
He's kind of like a Johnny Manziel. He can't run like Johnny Manziel, but I'm just saying he's got the moxie of a Johnny Manziel. Looked like to me.
I hope he's not a jerk like Johnny Manziel was. I hope he just plays the game. Anything else, Craig? Let's talk a little bit about the BYU Baylor game. What are your thoughts on that game? BYU has lost both their number 1 and number 2 wide receivers, and the line hasn't moved.
I like Baylor. Give me Baylor and the points there. Baylor ran the ball on them last year, so I got to see BYU stop them this year. I mean, Baylor was a more physical team a year ago, so I trust Baylor more. And guys, the Big 12, I mean, did you see what K-State did to Missouri today?
Yeah.
Just ran all over them. I mean, seriously, I know it's early in this Houston game. Houston Tech game's early in the second quarter. Tech's up 3-0, and Houston's driving. But I would say the conference is off to a heck of a start this year. And then we got a big OSU game tonight against Arizona State.
Yeah. Al, I haven't heard you talk about. I have an opinion on Baylor and BYU.
Well, I since a wide receiver, I was going to pick BYU. I'm just it's there. It's a huge game. I think home field means a lot, but with the 2 receivers out, I'm probably going to go with Baylor now.
You know BYU, Craig, is saying, we're coming into your league in a couple of years. You're the defending Big 12 champion. We want to show that we can play in your league. This will be crazy to say because I know when they go Mormon against Mormon, they're psychotic out there. But this is one of the biggest games that BYU's played, I think, in a while, if you ask me. Now, there might be BYU fans out there saying I'm crazy, but I think this means a lot for them to make a statement, Craig.
Yeah, last year Baylor was favored by 5, ends up, winning it convincingly by 14. No, everything you're saying is true, and BYU was impressive in their opener, and they are home. And I don't know, but I mean, if you ask me, I trust Baylor more than I do BYU.
That's fair. What I would get touchdown. Iowa State would be embarrassed if they gave up a touchdown to Iowa, right? 7-0. What are your thoughts on
Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame. They just
in a
went
battle
ahead
with Marshall in the fourth quarter. Herbstreit called that one.
Yeah, they just went ahead.
They had to be down at the Ohio State game.
It is. Let me tell you, that's what Mark and I were talking earlier, Craig. I think Texas is going to have a hard time with San Antonio next week. I mean, after losing like they did, and then they got the Big 12 coming up. I don't know. By the way, somebody reminded me that a few years ago, Texas played LSU down to the wire. And remember, that was maybe one of the greatest LSU teams of all time. And Texas, I think, ended up 7-5 that year. So let's not get too far.
Although if Ewers is healthy, they're going to be good.
I'm with you. I'm just saying they got a lot. They got to keep on doing it.
I agree.
And neither is Card, for that matter, right now. Al. I mean, Card is playing on one leg out there. He was limping around. But he is not Ewers. I'm with you guys. I don't know what the holdup was on naming Ewers.
Oh, we're sick of it, Dick. We were talking about that earlier, Craig. We're sick and tired of these people saying, "Oh, yeah, it's a close race." No, it isn't. Who was it with Kyler Murray?
It was Austin Kendall.
Austin Kendall. Are you kidding me? Kyle Murray and Austin Kendall? That's unbelievable.
Hey, we got some good games going right now. I mean, App State is tied with A&M right now in the second quarter, late in the second one, 2:01 left. And then, guys, a game that we talked about a lot this week. How about Pitt and Tennessee?
Great game.
With Tennessee on the road, favored by, what, 6 or so, Matt?
Yeah,
something like that?
6, yeah.
And right now, Pitt is up 17-14. 5.5 minutes to go in the first half there, but that'll be a good one.
Two good quarterbacks here, the Slovis kid and then the hooker. They're both of them are good players. Yeah, they really are. Yeah. All right, Stillwater tonight. Greg, your thoughts in Stillwater?
I like OSU to win. But, if you force me to give a prediction, I'd probably say OSU by 8 or 10, so that's not a cover. But there's no way I would bet that game. There's no way I would bet against OSU. I think they'll win the game fairly convincingly. But as far as the cover, I don't know that I'd be that confident in that, just because I still want to see more of the back seven. I still think that some people can have some success throwing on OSU and moving the football. So they might have to win more with their offense, unlike last year. But I definitely think they get it done and win by a touchdown or a little bit more.
I just don't know if Arizona State can throw the ball. I mean, if they try to run, I think it's hard to run on OSU, Al.
Really hard to run. Yeah, And this Arizona State program is mired with problems.
Oh my God! What a
Unbelievable
horrible
problems.
offseason. I can't believe that Herb Edwards is still the coach out there, Craig. You know?
Well, he's probably lucky to still have his job right now. But on the other hand, I think this is a good test for OSU. I mean, Emory Jones, the quarterback, transferred to Florida, right?
Yep.
And so last year, he threw, had 12 starts, 2,734 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions last year at Florida. And so, he is an experienced quarterback.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And this X-Man running back, Pat Jones, is telling me this Valaday that they're really high on. He played 4 years at Wyoming. They got a wide receiver. Sanders is supposed to be really good. So they do have, they got some talent. This would be a decent test.
Yeah. And OSU's got to show a little better performance on defense. All right, Craig, here in Norman.
It's hot.
It's hot, but it looks by game time it might cool a little bit, Craig. So,
yeah, Coldfront's supposed to come in during the game.
I know. I wish it would have come in about an hour ago, but it didn't. So, what are your thoughts here in Norman, Craig?
Oh, I am. Kent State likes to run the hurry up, right? So they'll throw the ball around a little bit. So it'll be a little test for the OU defensive back. So I'm anxious to see that. But I think they probably do a pretty good job holding a little under 20 points. I would say, let's say something like 56-17, something in that neighborhood.
6-17. So you got OU covered.
With I don't know. Does that line keep moving up? Is it over?
I think it's 33. I think.
I got him with a slide cover. Yeah, maybe a slide cover. I wouldn't bet on that one either.
What was your T&W Tire lock of the week?
My T&W Tire lock of the week was New Orleans.
The Saints?
In the NFL against Atlanta, at Atlanta, and I think they were given like 5.5. Matt told me the line was going up. It had gone up from like 3.5 or so to 5.5. So someone likes New Orleans, so I just went with New Orleans.
Who's Atlanta's quarterback?
Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, Mariota.
And by the way, I have picked New Orleans to win that division. I think they're going to beat Tampa Bay out.
Well, they still got a good defense.
Oh, and let me tell you something. Jameis Winston, when he got hurt last year, I think he had 16 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He was playing.
He was the new Jameis Winston.
Well, he learned a little bit he sat around for a year with Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. You'd hope he learned something, right? So, and I love
about New Orleans.
I love Olave. I love Olave, the kid from Ohio State. I think he's going to be. I think he's this year's Jefferson or Chase. I really do. I think he's a star. So, we will see. All right, Craig. Good job. Appreciate it.
See you, Craig. Thanks, Craig. See you, Al.
Craig Humphrey. You can listen to him on our station every day at 9 o'clock. Al's not up that early, but I'm sure that he listens to him on the podcast.
No doubt I do.
Let us take a break. It's countdown to kickoff Bud Light Game Time. Live from historic Campus Corner here in Norman. We are in the RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studios, driven by Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma City. Guess what? Powerful and capable Lexus GX. Now with a 10.3-inch touchscreen. Expand your comfort zone. Experience amazing at Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma City. When we get back, we'll talk to Mr. Dean Blevins right here on the home of the Thunder, the Anthem.
Campus going to Oklahoma, going against Kent State at 6 o'clock. Join us, Dean Blevins, and time for Dean Blevins' Instinct of the Day.
It's time for Interurban's Instincts of the Day with Dean Blevins. What might happen today across the college football landscape? The Interurban's Instincts of the Day on WLS, the sports animal.
Well, Al, I'll jump in real quick here because I certainly want to endorse once again, as I have been doing since 1976, the incredible interurban restaurants around the state of Oklahoma. And I know you two guys have been to many of them and have enjoyed it. We lost Rosser last year, God bless his soul, and Rusty Lecter still manning the shop and doing a sensational job with all of his managers around. And the reason they've been around is because they're really, really, really good with prices that are affordable. So I am all in. My instincts are that interurban, you can't go wrong.
Very good. What about some instincts about, give us your instincts about what happened down in Austin today.
Well, really impressed with Texas. I mean, Alabama comes out and has around 20 penalties, so they weren't on top of their game. But Alabama had to respect Bijan so much that they couldn't just match him playing the defense they would like to play, so they had to really commit to stopping him, and they did a pretty good job of it, but it opened up a lot of opportunities for Worthy and just for Texas overall. Texas played its best game that I've seen in quite a while. I was thinking that Ewers was a special quarterback, but after seeing him today, I think he's just his upside is tremendous, and it's going to be interesting to see Arch Manning go down there because he may not be able to play for at least a year or maybe more. But Texas, guys, if you'll remember when Gary Patterson came over from TCU, I tweeted and I talked with you guys significantly about how that could and probably would change Texas mentally and particularly defensively. And I think even though he's not a full-time assistant, he has a huge role in what they do down there. And so I saw his impact on the game. And if Ewers doesn't go down in this particular game, I'm not saying they would beat them all the time, but in that game, they would have won that. And lastly, Card was so hobbled on that foot. He has that wide open receiver late, and he couldn't get it to him. So I think that even if Card had been healthy, they might have been able to win it. So in the end, your Heisman Trophy winner was the difference.
Good point about Patterson. They did look tougher on defense, Al.
Yeah, they did. I want to see again, is it that Alabama isn't that good running the ball or Texas improved that much? So, and we're going to wait to see that. But I would think, I agree. I think Patterson in his limited role there has probably helped them in. And Jim and I both agree, if Ewers doesn't get hurt, they win that game.
Yeah. And also agree with you, Dean, that we think Ewers has a chance to be a superstar.
Yes.
He just looks, just pops off the page, does he not?
Yeah, and for a guy who hadn't played much, he's had a real odyssey because of leaving high school and not having that senior year, which a friend of mine who coaches high school said that he'll never forgive him for that. He just said that he's got a team that lost in the state championship game, and had he stayed, they would have been a state champion, and he didn't like him for that. But Jim, it was him throwing at all. It was a quick release. It was touch. It was arm strength. It was everything that some people have been saying for some time. So I don't know the situation with him. It sure didn't look good, and I wouldn't think his chances of playing in the Oklahoma game are good at all.
Al raved about his poise too, right, Al?
Yeah, I mean, he stood in that pocket. Alabama obviously has a great pass rush, and I just shocked the poise of a guy.
Yeah, and Al, they were playing true. They were Texas was playing true freshmen at left guard and left tackle.
I know. No, listen.
So
it was an impressive performance, and it's obvious that they're getting a little bit tougher than they have been. They've been so soft for years. But I will just say this. I was reminded of this, and I'm just going to say it. I know you fans are going to be happy I say it. A few years ago, they gave LSU everything they wanted right down there in Austin, which we think that LSU team might have been one of the best teams we've ever seen. And they ended up, I think, going 7-5 that year. So can they continue it, right? Can they continue it?
If they
That's
get
the
Ewers
key.
healthy.
Well, if they don't get Ewers healthy.
If they
then,
don't
yeah.
get Ewers healthy, they're going to have major problems offensively.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I think Card has improved quite a bit. The people that I talk to down there that are talking about him in his current state versus where he was last year when Casey was able to beat him out. And this is before these are conversations I've had in the last couple of weeks. He's a better quarterback. So we'll see. They would be better, obviously, with viewers.
But is he good enough to win the Big 12?
Texas is going to be good.
Is he big enough to win? Is he good enough to win? Ewers is good enough to win the Big 12. Is Card good enough to win the Big 12?
Is OU's quarterback good enough to win the Big 12?
Well, he's done.
Baylor's quarterback good enough? You kind of have to go down that list. If we were talking about Baker Mayfield, Jim, or Kyler Murray, or perhaps even, if you're talking about those, I would say, yeah, you got to have one.
Well, no. Listen, though, Dean, I'm not putting any of those guys into a Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray. But all of those dudes you just mentioned, I mean, the Baylor kid did win the Big 12 last year, and obviously, Gabriel has done some really good things. Card's done nothing so far.
Yep.
I think he is better. What he did today on one leg was incredibly impressive. I mean, I give it up to the kid. But
their offense wasn't very good after Ewers.
Well, that's right. But I'm just saying, Ewers is special.
Ewers is unbelievable.
Ewers could be in the category of Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. You see what I'm saying, Dean?
Yeah. No, I do. And I think, maybe you weren't impressed with Texas's offense later. I think you got to remember that I can't imagine what Saban did at halftime about all those penalties. But, you're playing against the best defensive player in the country and a really, really good defense. And when Texas had to have points there late, they marched that thing down the field and got an impressive field goal that put them ahead. So that was pretty big. They did get what was the play? They got sacked. Remember? That is the one thing. I was driving down at that time, and Texas was moving, and you're thinking it's anything but a sack. And here they go, 31. Yep. Anderson comes in and sacked them. That was the second biggest play of the game.
Yeah, but they did kick this field goal, and they still made it.
But they might have, if they get a first down there, they can run the clock
Absolutely
down.
Huge. Absolutely huge. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
they gave
time. Right.
Wait.
Yeah.
Listen, Bryce Young may not have been a great game, but he did what he did in that game all year long, man. I mean, this dude, when he needs it, he gets it done. And he did it again. So, but you got to give it up to Texas, Dean. They made a really, really nice showing. They really did. What do you thought?
Jim, I'll say this that with Texas A&M beating Alabama last year, and with Texas taking them to the wire here, I think for this part of the country, and including the Big 12, it should make you feel better.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, the Big 12 is showing pretty well. Kansas State, I think Kansas State's defense is pretty daggone good.
They're
but
good.
They obliterated Missouri. Not that Missouri's anything special. We'll see what Tech does against Houston. I think that game is tied, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Matt Meyer can let us know on that. And then you got BYU Baylor. So there's some big games for the Big 12. What are your thoughts on the BYU Baylor game?
Tech leads Houston 10-3 right now.
10-3. There you go. That'd be a nice win for them. What are your thoughts on the BYU Baylor game, Dean?
I think it's going to be.
You can break when you're ready.
To a lot of us around this part of the country, in what BYU is going to bring to the Big 12 conference. I think that Aranda is going to. They're going to bring a great defense down there and a very capable offense. And with BYU losing its two top receivers and still being favored. If BYU is able to win that, and I know they're at home, but if they're able to win that, I think it's telling. But I don't expect them to win it. And maybe I don't know enough about BYU this year, but I really like Baylor, and I think they'll make a good showing for themselves and for the Big 12.
Don't you think, Dean? I'm sorry, Al, but I just want to say, don't you think, Al, Dean, that BYU is saying to themselves, okay, this is a champion of the league last year. We're going in this league in a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to show everybody that we're not only belong in the league, but we might be the best team in the league.
And I think on the other locker room, you're going to hear Aranda speak in the only way that he does speak, but he communicates it. It might not be for everyone, but he communicates it so well with his guys. I think that they will come in prepared too. Should be a great game, Jim. I'm taking Baylor. And so far, my locks have been pretty good.
Good job.
Had Arkansas, can't remember the other one, but anyway, the Razorbacks came through.
What about the game down here today? You haven't talked about that.
Yeah, Al, I think it's one that Oklahoma's going to play really well in because I think they're sensing that the season is about to get the talent that they're going to be playing is about to get much better. And I think that even them taking time to watch a Texas game or any of that, I think that there will not be a lack of focus. And there wasn't even last week. But I think they're going to come out and make that game 1 to game 2 improvement. I expect, once again, an offense that will put up more than they did last week. And defensively, I hope that they are able to maybe not show a bunch of stuff, but I hope they're able to shore up a couple of the, particularly against some of the intermediate pass game, to shore up some of that stuff. And I hope that the kickoff and field goal Schultz is much, much better, because he doesn't need a game, 2 games consecutively going up to Lincoln and the games after that, where most of his kickoffs are lower than Wilt Chamberlain.
Al, ask him your question about playing some of those young.
Yeah, Javante Barnes and maybe Gavin Freeman. I mean, they got so many good receivers with Mims. Weiss caught some passes. Drake Stoops. What about Javante Barnes? And when Brent singled him out, him and Freeman this week at the press conference.
Yeah, I think that, and even put him in the same sentence with Adrian Peterson, not in overall ability, but he explained it. Al, I think the perfect situation is if Oklahoma can sit their guys early, certainly by the fourth quarter, but whether they sit them or not, to get some of those guys in there. I think they want to get a look at Barnes, and you want him, Jim, you know how it is. He fumbled his first one, right? I mean, he's got a world of potential. Al, you get in these situations, and coaches only play people they trust. And so I think this would be this is an opportunity for him to develop some trust so that he gets a lot of opportunities on down the road.
I asked a question to you guys a couple weeks ago. I said, is there a chance that Barnes is the best running back on the team? And you both said probably not at the time, but he does have a little pop, Al. He looks like he's got something.
He got some natural stuff. Yeah, he's got a pop and he's strong.
You see that? You saw it, didn't you?
I'm not changing my position. You just explained it perfectly, Jim. What we said, you said it correctly, and I think we would say it again today, that he has that. It's the potential. And you know how it is, Jim, you bring these young guys in. Now, Javante, I believe, was able to be here for the spring semester. So he got a little bit of that action and that help. But, he's got to be secure with the ball and all these other things. In terms of sheer ability, yes, he's the most talented back there right now. I hope Sawchuk is not in skivvies and get some chances as well.
Yeah, whatever it is, it looks like they're pretty good at running back for a while. Okay.
Marshall up over Notre Dame by 4 with 5 minutes left.
Wow, unbelievable. Okay, Dean, give me a score in Stillwater and then a score down here.
I think OSU is going to dominate on the scoreboard. I think they're going to walk out of there with it wouldn't surprise me if they were at least a 3-touchdown winner. And I think it's a game down here that OU can pretty much name its score. I do respect some of the things that these guys do, and so they're better than last week. But Oklahoma will be able to have its way if they come with a good attitude. I want to see, Jim, is a back-to-back week where they are noticeably, once again, better coached than they've been. If we see it again, that's so comforting to see that and see it into the future. And I think the point spread's about right.
All right, Dino, thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. Adios. See you, Al.
See ya.
That's Dean Blevins. It is Countdown to Kickoff, Bud Light Game Time, live from the Campus Corner in Norman. We are in the RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studios, and we are brought to you by the all-new Lexus NX with an available 14-inch touchscreen and the most advanced standard active safety system in a Lexus. When we get back, we will also bring in the fellas up there in Stillwater as we're going back-to-back. Remember, we are the only station in the entire state that does both pre- and post-game for every OU game and every OSU game. We'll be right back on the Leader in Sports, the Animal.
Arizona State. It gets underway at 6:30 tonight inside Boone Pickens Stadium, coming to you from inside our RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studio right across the street from Joe's, all part of Joe State Tailgate. I'm Gideon Hamilton, along with two-time All-American here at OSU, Rashawn Woods. Rashawn, this should be a fun one tonight that should give us a little bit of a better gauge where Oklahoma State is headed into conference play. Of course, they have one more non-conference opponent next week with Arkansas Pine Bluff. Oklahoma State explosive at times in their season opener against Central Michigan a week ago. What did you think of the Cowboys' efforts in week one?
Yeah, it was all offense, and that's always good to talk about, especially early on in the season, to know that even with a couple of injuries that they had at the receiver position, could really get things done on the outside. Spencer Sanders was phenomenal, Big 12 Player of the Week. Just made the right decisions. He's been at the helm now for quite some time, and the game is slowed down just about as slow as it's going to be for him. And he was obvious when you watched the game. Oklahoma State went back to the no huddle offense. They did it almost for the entirety of the game until it got out of hand, I would say. Yeah. And so that could be potentially a good thing. Defensively, they were, for the most part, it was a pretty good job. I thought the quarterback for Central Michigan really completed balls at a high level. And the score was 50-something to 15 at one point before they got the next group of guys in which I thought Central Michigan was able to move the ball a little bit too easy on the second string of guys, or the second group of guys that came in, which at one point really, really put a scare and had Oklahoma State's hands team out. They also had the starters warming up at one point at the end of the game, just in case those guys had to be thrusted back into action. But luckily, did not have to, and Oklahoma State was able to prevail last week. So, yeah, a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, Cowboys score 44 points in basically just over a quarter. They did it in just over 16 minutes of game action. Part of that was set up defensively. They had a lot of quick stops, had some defensive points scored on a safety, and then Spencer Sanders was terrific in the second quarter, really the first half of that game. Very effective. Cowboys making some big plays out of some short completions, which is something that this receiving group should be able to do quite a bit this season with the kind of talent that they have. And you said something that certainly raised a lot of eyebrows around here, that you think from top to bottom. And I looked at this top heavy. Certainly there are some guys that have played here at Oklahoma State that have been as good as anybody who's played in the country with their respective eras. But from top to bottom, the entire room of wide receivers, this is probably the best that there's been at Oklahoma State.
That's exactly right. And although Jaden Bray didn't play, he's a phenomenal athlete. I mean, I had a chance to talk with Coach Dunn about him, and his athleticism alone is extraordinarily off the charts. And so when he gets back in the fold, he's going to be able to do things down the field as well as with the ball in his hands. Everybody pretty much knows about Brennan Presley and how explosive he can be when he gets the ball in short yardage type situations or quick passes, and can be electric that way. But you saw that kind of spark in John Paul Richardson. If you remember, if you listened to me last week, I talked about how he has the ability to he's more of a jack type guy. He's not quite as good with the ball in his hands as a Brennan Presley, but he is definitely formidable, as we saw last week with the long catch and run, which was a phenomenal play by him. And he's a solid route runner, one of the better route runners as well, and can catch the ball down the field. He is truly, truly a guy who has every chance to take advantage of all of those traits. He has all of those, not necessarily the best at any one,
right?
But he can do just about all of them. Rashard Olins is the guy we didn't hear a whole lot about, but the Braden Johnson. Braden Johnson has kind of been that guy who he's always looked like a guy who can explode and have a big time game. And I think 2 years ago in the bowl game, I think he did. It seemed like, if I remember, in the bowl game, we were like, who is this guy? He explodes for a big time game. And then the next year, not a lot happens. The next year after that, not a lot happens. And you're kind of wondering, wow, this guy's still on the team. You're like, he's been here forever, seems like. And he exploded last week in the absence of the couple of other guys, and really, really had a big time game. And that all of those things are great. So many guys to talk about. You kind of get the feeling from a receiving standpoint is who are we going to talk about today?
Right.
And that's a good place to be.
That is a good thing. It's always been a good thing for Oklahoma State, even though, like I said, they've had elite talent in one, maybe two guys on the roster. You want to be able to have different options just because that makes things so much more difficult for no opposing defense to prepare for, especially when you have to get these guys in space. It's really, really tough to bring them down, as we saw in week one. And that's something that you love to see if you want to see Spencer Sanders not have to have that kind of pressure on himself anymore. These short routes turn into first downs, turn into chunk plays, where Oklahoma State did have 4 plays of 40 yards or more, where they had 8 of those plays all of last season. Let's go ahead and talk about the defense. People were disappointed in what happened in the fourth quarter. Before that, before those backups got in, anything stand out to you? A lot was talked about Kendall Daniels, just his size as somebody who's a member of that secondary. Mason Cobb was a kid that was really active early in that game. Had a lot of individual tackles in that one that I was impressed by. And then the defensive line kind of did their thing, which you kind of expect that from them this season.
Yeah, the defensive line, I think, is still the strongest part about this. Brock Martin is still back. Colin Oliver was freshman player of the year. And then we haven't had a chance to talk a whole lot about Trace Ford, who at one point was the gem of this defensive front, that after 2 years of knee injuries is finally back in the fold and having an opportunity to get back and play. I foresee him going and making some plays because the guy just doesn't lose that ability, right?
Right.
He has to rehab and have to get that explosive ability back. But with the way medical is moved along, you're not as hampered by knee injuries as you once were, and so I expect to be talking about him down the road. Cole Waltershed is a guy we talked about a lot last year. Still here, still a guy that can get after the passer, more of a run-stopping end. But again, another guy that is that we're very familiar with.
Right.
You talk about the defensive backs, which all of these guys are new, I think. And so just
Jason Taylor.
Okay, so Jason Taylor is the only guy, and one thing that I can see when I'm looking at these guys and looking at the roster is they're not small guys. The day of small defensive backs, and when I say small, 5'10" and under, it's pretty much gone in Oklahoma State. They're trying to get bigger defensive backs, guys that are closer to 6 foot, 6'1", and can run and cover the bigger guys in space. One thing that we talked about in the past about the corners is that how well that they tackle in space. And so I think that when you got bigger guys, that's what you want to be able to do when they're throwing those quick passes out. And Arizona State likes to do that. They like to swing the ball from sideline to sideline and try to get easy, short, big plays offensively. And Oklahoma State is very well equipped to be able to stop those guys and make tackles out in space because the defensive backs and safeties are bigger.
A little bit later on the show, today is a reunion of the 2002 Oklahoma State team, the first team since 97 to go to a bowl game. Of course, won the Houston Bowl that year over Southern Mississippi, and that was the start of a great run for Oklahoma State football in terms of winning seasons, getting to bowl games, things like that. We'll have a mini reunion here on our show a little bit later on. And before we incorporate the guys in Norman back into the show, Rashawn, wanted to get your thoughts on today's opponent, Arizona State, 1-0, beat FCS Northern Arizona 40-3, gave up 120 yards. Obviously, that's a different opponent than what they're going to see today with Oklahoma State. People might remember Emory Jones, who used to play quarterback for Florida. He's at the helm there. Watched the game. Almost all of those passes that he was able to complete at a high percentage were short or intermediate routes. So your take on this Arizona State team and the challenge they could provide to OSU today?
Haven't seen a ton about them, but the bottom line of the deal is that last year's team, they gave up a lot of points, and so from a defensive standpoint or offensive standpoint, you expect the no-huddle offense to really, really put pressure on the Arizona State team. I mean, from a passing game standpoint, I don't know a whole lot about those guys, but they're not a soft. Oklahoma State is not a soft team throwing the football, right? And so nothing that Arizona State saw last week is going to pertain to what they're going to see this week. It's going to be fast, up-tempo. Arizona State throwing the ball wise did exactly what we talked about just a little bit earlier. They want to throw quick, not extremely explosive in the passing game. But, again, if they can manufacture plays in space and be able to make a couple of guys miss, that's what they're going to try to do. And just like with everybody else in this league, everybody wants to try and establish some sort of running game, which for Oklahoma State, their defensive line, their ability to stop the run, I really think is a strength. Last week against Central Michigan, the guy can really run the football. That guy's going to have a chance in the NFL to run the football for that plays at Central Michigan. Held them to 2-point-something yards a carry. It was extremely phenomenal, and they gave the guy the ball. It wasn't like they went away from it and said, oh, we can't run. We're not going to do it. He still had 20-plus carries and averaged, 2.1 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So for Oklahoma State to be able to do that to that guy, and this week, a better Arizona State team, Arizona State really needs to be better in the offensive line, which I think they will be. But the edge really goes to Oklahoma State as far as just talent on that defensive front.
What's it like to be back in Stillwater?
Always good to be back. Thankful to have another opportunity, another year to be on the radio and be a part of this atmosphere. This is home for me, and so to have a chance to give my 2 cents every week and be a part of this deal is always great.
All right, coming to you live from the RV General Store mobile studio in Stillwater, right across the street from Eskimo Joe's. When we return, we will hook back up with the guys' campus corner. Al Eschbach and Jim Traber still down there breaking down OU and Kent State a little bit later on. Of course, we'll talk about the world of college football as well. Gideon Hamilton, two-time All-American here at OSU. Rashawn Woods, you're listening to Countdown to Kickoff, 98.1 FM, WWLS, the sports animal.
Countdown to Kickoff and Bud Light Game Time. From inside the RV.
him tonight. Who's going to air it out? Jim, I wonder if last week they went boom, 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 and then they sort of slowed it down. They didn't go as quick as they had been for whatever reasons. But it'll be interesting to see how long they go up tempo for tonight.
Well, I mean, I think you and I talked about this week. I think there's going to be times where Brent Venables kind of says to Jeff Lebby, "Okay, dude, let's slow it down a little bit, get the defense a little bit of a rest." I think that's going to happen. But when they're playing a serious game and it's close, they're going to be running up and down the field.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, my answer to who's going to air it out today is both teams.
Well, because they go fast.
Kent State
also
is going to fire it around.
Average 483 yards, eighth best in total offense a year ago. So we'll see. And let's bring Rashawn and Gideon. Let's talk nationally right now.
First of all, I want to congratulate Rashawn because they're honoring him today, if I'm not mistaken. Rashawn, aren't you getting a little bit of an honor today, sir?
Yeah, man, I'm part of the 2002 bowl team of that year, man, that season. That was it's great to be honored, man. It's great to be a part of that. It was a great year, man. I remember a lot of guys, and I haven't had a chance to see a lot of them yet. But, man, I look forward to seeing those guys in the game and just kind of reconnecting with a lot of my old teammates, man. So,
congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
And that was the year that Mike Stoops had no answer for you, and he said it after the game. He had
right.
no answer covering Rashawn Woods.
Coach, it's 2022, and he probably still doesn't have an answer.
Very nice. Yeah, let's talk
nationally. I mean, we got an upset brewing in Notre Dame. A&M, 7-7 Appalachian. They got to be really happy about their defense at A&M. But they feel same old things. We don't have a quarterback.
By the way, it's over in South Bend. Marshall recovered an onside kick that was a great onside kick. It was one of those watermelon kicks, the sideways, where it stays on the ground, and it went a yard or two past the 45-yard line, and Notre Dame could have easily recovered that, but Marshall did, and Marshall has beaten Notre Dame. Appalachian State has scored a touchdown. They lead A&M 14-7 late third quarter.
Oh, my gosh.
This is in College Station, obviously.
What's mind-boggling to me, and we'll throw it, Rashawn and Gideon, you guys comment, it's amazing how there's certain schools that can't get quarterbacks like A&M and LSU, but then when they do get one, like Johnny Manziel or Burrow, they're just great. Why is it?
Well, A&M isn't great. They got their Cotton Bowl, but that's great for A&M.
Well,
but A&M standards.
They won at Alabama.
Yeah, but they did. But
you're right.
But yeah, their standards, they did get to a Cotton Bowl.
That was a really good year, but it's just crazy.
I agree with you, though.
Why can't they get quarterbacks, guys?
Man, quarterback is probably the hardest position to recruit. Just because, man, when you turn on a highlight film of guys and you see guys throw it around, man, there's a lot of guys that can throw pretty hard, right? But it kind of reminds me of when you're trying to recruit a pitcher and stuff like that at the high school level. It's more than just getting a guy who can throw over 100, right? At least it becomes more. In high school, that's all you really need. You got a guy that can throw a really, really good ball, has some athletic ability. It's high school.
Yep.
But when they're trying to get those guys and recruit those guys from a mental standpoint, really, really have to be able to process what they want to do. And so sometimes, at least at that position, just having arm talent or having athletic ability is not necessarily enough. And trying to recruit and identify guys when you talk about the gray area or the intangibles, what does the guy do when he has to get rid of the ball early? Does he have touch? When he's can he anticipate? Can he read the defense? Those are things that a lot of times you don't really know until the guy is sitting in that room and already signed his name, his letter of intent for you.
Somehow, though, these other schools, Gideon, are getting quarterbacks.
Notre Dame's another school that doesn't get quarterbacks.
Well, they had the kid, the Ian Book, and he's a good player, and they did really well. They went to the Final Four.
But, I mean, NFL guys, top, All-American guys. When's the last time they've had a great quarterback?
Well, he's in the NFL, but he's not a starter. He's not a superstar. But I don't know, Gideon. It's a weird deal. I'm going to tell you right now, both LSU and Texas A&M, in my opinion, would take Spencer Sanders in a heartbeat. Don't you agree?
Right.
Yeah, they would. Spencer's coming off a terrific game a week ago, and you kind of wonder with this group, guys, if I'm not going to say that they're going to make it foolproof, but I think they're going to make it a lot easier on him this season. He doesn't have to make those throws that he seemingly thought he had to make the last 3 years. I think this offense can turn into a well-oiled machine just with some easier routes based on the talents of a lot of these guys they have around him.
And I think he is so much better when they go fast. I've said that out now for a couple of years.
No doubt.
I mean, in that Baylor game down there, they were slow. He threw interceptions. He came back. They almost won it. But in Notre Dame, after they got down, Rashawn, they just went boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I'm not ripping on the kid. I'm not saying he's not smart. I'm just saying some quarterbacks play better thinking is slow and some when they just react. And I think he's the kind that when he reacts, he's at his best, Rashawn. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's more to it than that, too.
Okay.
Right? Could the offensive coordinator be better when his back is against the wall? Can Casey be better when his back is against the wall, right?
Right.
And instead of leading. I think that goes hand in hand because both guys called better. The game was called better when the games were close or when they were behind, and the quarterback play was better, and the team offensively was better overall. And so, you're right even deeper than what I think you realize, man. And so, exactly what is it more than the other? You can never be sure because you're not in that room with them. But, a lot of that, what you say is right on, man.
I want to get back to the quarterback thing. With these schools, with the portal out there, you should be able to get quarterbacks.
No doubt.
I mean, by the way, Wisconsin getting beat by Washington State right now. We got a lot of crazy things. I want to ask both of you. Texas and today against Alabama. What were your thoughts, both of you?
I thought Texas defensively looked like they could tackle in space a lot better than they have in recent memory. And a lot of people made the observation that Patterson is down there and he had, 2 or 3 months to game plan for just this game. But I just thought athletically, they've obviously had some guys that can play, but I think they've gotten the right kind of athlete there defensively that can make a play before it turns into a gigantic play. And then obviously late the middle of the field is just so wide open. But at least in the run game, I think they can be a little bit more effective than they were a season ago. And then it looks like they have a weapon that if
break when you're ready, Trams next segment.
To get the ball to that kid that can really fly on the outside, then that could serve them well also.
Yeah, them playing Alabama this early was the best thing that could have happened to Texas University. And here's why. It forced those guys to really come together and say to themselves, okay, we better be ready because we got a juggernaut out of the gate. And we've got to figure this deal out. And I thought when I watched that, a lot of the focus, and it's good for you, when you got a top dog coming to town, a lot of your focus in the offseason, in the summertime, you got all that time to be dialed in. And when you've got an opponent like the Crimson Tide rolling in, there's nothing that can get your attention more than knowing that you got to play a team like that. And man, I'm telling you, if the kid didn't go down, if the Quinn kid doesn't go down, man, they win that game.
We agree.
I was in a coach's thread, and I'm telling you, some of my guys were talking bad about the Longhorns, man. They were, and obviously they're the OU fans that they're fired up about them and ready to go. But I had to go online and I had to go find the game and see what the score is, because typically our coach's thread will let me know who's winning, what's going on. And if Texas was getting whooped, I would have had to turn my phone on silent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it was palpable. My phone hadn't went off all day. I had to message, hey, I don't hear anything about the Longhorns right now. What's going on? And so to me, that has struck a chord with everybody in the Big 12, fans, everybody that watched that game, that yes, they still lost. And I got a text that said, hey, they still lost. That's right. But it was by 1 point.
They're getting better.
And they're a lot better than what we thought they were.
They look better.
But
and
you
so
can still say Texas sucks.
You can if you want, right? But but you're not saying it as loud. Now, Al, I know you'll scream it to the top of the lungs. Even if they beat OU by 30, you're gonna say it, right? But the reality,
absolutely,
the reality of it is, okay, is everybody that watched that game was like, oh boy.
You're right. No, you're right.
Oh boy.
You're right.
That's right. That's right.
They're
Everybody.
They look good.
Yep.
We'll see if they can keep doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Countdown to Kickoff Bud Light Game Time. We're here, Al Eschbeck and myself, live from historic Campus Corner in Norman, RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studios. We also have a mobile studio in Stillwater, where Gideon Hamilton and Mr. Rashawn Woods are in front of Eskimo Joe's. Like I said, we're the only station that does both OU and OSU pre- and post-game. And this Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you by Lexus. Experience amazing at Eskridge, Lexus of Oklahoma City. When we get back, we'll talk to Mr. Barry Trammell right here on the leader, and I mean huge leader in sports, the Animal.
Driven by Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma.
Hey, Barry's ready. You guys are up.
And we're back. Countdown to kickoff here in Norman. Myself, Al Lishback, and Jimmy Traver on historic campus corner in front of O'Connell's. We got Gideon, Rashawn, and now Barry Tremble up in Stillwater outside Eskimo Joe's. I got to ask you, Barry, first, talk about the Texas game, and then Notre Dame gets beat by Marshall. That doesn't happen many times.
No, when the season started, we had 3 teams that everybody said, coronation to the playoff. Just sort of parade. 2 of them have been stretched already, Alabama and Ohio State. And Ohio State, scrapped to beat Notre Dame, and now Notre Dame's lost to Marshall. So maybe there's a little more parity than we thought, but I thought Texas was just fantastic today. To lose your quarterback and stay in the game, and then your quarterback, who played pretty good, he comes up lame and guts it out. And they come within a missed tackle on that sack of beating Alabama. I tell you, I was very impressed with the Longhorns.
What'd you think of Ewers?
I thought he was really solid. He didn't get to play long enough to get too, much of a determination one way or the other. But I liked him. I liked him early when he was in there.
Yeah, Alan,
I threw for 130-something yards in one quarter against Alabama.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be a superstar, Tram. I just like that. Al talked about his poise, got a great arm, moved around well. I mean, he just, for his second start ever against Alabama, you got to give him a credit, don't you?
Yeah, no, I liked him a lot, but I tell you, I liked the defense. That's what I thought Texas defense was unbelievable.
Yeah.
4 straight 3-and-outs. Man, and, until they go to until the fourth quarter, Alabama scored on an 81-yard run, and they kicked a 54-yard field goal. So, we never talk about the Texas defense, but that Kwiatkowski or whatever his name is, that coordinator had quite a day, I thought.
Gideon, before you ask a question, I got to ask you, we got clouds rolling in a little bit down here. Is it cooling off really strong up there in Stillwater?
Not really. It's still pretty warm. It has gotten a little bit cloudier since we started the show, but it doesn't look like anything's imminent up here like it did week 1.
Okay, you want to ask a question to Tram?
Absolutely. Tram, what do you think about this Arizona State team coming in today? Really tough to tell from what they did week 1, but based on what they did a year ago and what they have coming back this season, what do you think about the Sun Devils this year?
Nobody's optimistic about Arizona State. Even the people in Arizona think they're going to have a down year. But they do have a quarterback that made, 12 starts or 11 starts at Florida? So he's got some talent. We know that. And they'll have some ball players. You just don't know. It's been a very tumultuous offseason in Tempe with the NCAA investigation. The guys who got fired, the new guys that come in, a bunch of NFL guys. So it's sort of an unknown with this Arizona State team. They look good against Northern Arizona, but they're a mystery team with not a lot of optimism. But, Herm Edwards has actually his teams have been pretty solid in his 4 years. 26 and 18, I think, is his record.
I had a.
So you got to think they're capable.
I had a prominent media member in Phoenix, Tram, tell me that Herm Edwards, if he wasn't so liked and such kind of a gentleman that he is, he probably would have gotten fired this offseason. That's what I was told.
That sounds right. People like him. You're right. People like him. He's charming to talk to. I talked to him this week. He couldn't have been more agreeable.
Yeah, no,
he's
seems
got
like
a
a
mess.
good dude.
Recruiting during the dead period of COVID, that's a no-no. So they've got problems, and looks like NCAA, what little law is left in the town of Indianapolis in terms of the NCAA, it seems to be ready to come down on ASU.
Well, the big question, are they going to be in the Big 12 in 3 years?
I don't think so. I tend to think Pac-12's going to survive. Think about it this way, guys. They just came out with the new playoff, and conference champions are going to get in, and, top 4 conference champions get a bye even. So if you're Oregon or Washington, you will go to the Big Ten if you get a chance, just financially. But go to the Big 12? I don't think so. It's a lot easier to win a 10-team Pac-12 or a 12-team Pac-12 than it would be a 16-team Big 12.
But
I tend to think I think Utah, Washington, Oregon, those people, I think they're going to decide to stay together and see what happens.
But don't you think the Pac-12, they've got to bring someone else in, don't they?
They don't have to. The Big 12 stayed at 10, gave them a blueprint, but they've got a couple. They can bring in Boise State and San Diego State, and that wouldn't be USC and UCLA, but it's not it's not terrible. So I think there'll be a chance that the Pac-12 would expand to 12. I can't see them going beyond 12, but I think they could add 2 of those Mountain West teams and get up to 12.
Tram, your thoughts on the game in Stillwater, OSU, Arizona State?
Oh, I think Cowboys probably ought to win. They got the better team in terms of recent performance. I'm a little worried about the OSU defense. I don't know if you guys have followed Central Michigan today. They got down 31-7 to South Alabama, lost 38-24. So, when the Chippewas came back and made it an interesting game against OSU, we just sort of said, well, that happens, but they didn't acquit themselves very well today. So
are they this year's Tulane? Are they this year's Tulane?
Well, it's possible, I suppose. I suppose it is possible, because that's certainly what happened with Tulane a year ago.
Yep. We talked well about them after that game, Al, and then they stunk the rest of the year.
What do you think happens here in Norman, Barry?
Oh, I think it's going to be fascinating just because how fast both teams want to play. I'm anxious to see if either team blinks, or are we just going to go no huddle, hurry up the whole time, in which case both teams could run 95 plays, have a really sort of a high-scoring affair. I think it'll be a good test for the OU defense, better than last week, which wasn't a terrible test because that quarterback wasn't bad. But I think Kent State's probably better on offense. I don't see any way Kent State keeps up with OU's offense. I mean, I think probably score about as much as you want if you're Lincoln Riley, if you're Brett Venables. So I think we're headed for a high-scoring game just because there's going to be so many possessions and because the nature of these offenses.
Okay, how many? Give us the score in both places.
I went 51-28 in Norman. And I went with a close game here in Stillwater. I think Arizona State's sort of playing. I think, with boosters and donors and media and everybody else likes Herm Edwards, and probably the players do too. I think they'll play for him. I think we'll have a close game. I said 31-28.
All right, Tramp. Thanks a lot. Enjoy yourself up there in Stillwater, okay?
See you guys.
See you. Okay, when we get back, Al and I will wrap it up, and then we'll throw it for the rest of the way to the people, great guys up there in Stillwater. Rashawn Woods and Gideon Hamilton. Gideon, tell them where you are, what's happening up there.
We're right across the street from Eskimo Joe's. Big thanks to Stan and Tim and everybody at Joe's for their hospitality. Part of Joe's State Tailgate. A lot of TVs over here, tents, beer, and some great Joe's food, too. Inside our beautiful RV General Store mobile studio. Kickoff tonight, 6:30 ESPN2 for this one between OSU and Arizona State, Jim.
Very nice. And, of course, we are in the RV General Store Sports Animal Mobile Studios here in Norman in front of Campus Corner in Norman. Driven by Eskridge Lexus. Experience amazing at Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma City. We'll be right back on the Leader in Sports, The Animal.
back Jim Traber here in Norman. We're going to wrap things up and then jump to Stillwater where Gideon Hamilton, Rashawn Woods is standing by. Hey, first, Jim, there's some crazy games going on. Upsets today, unlike week one.
Every year there's a week where it just is a psycho week, and so far it looks like today is the day. Yes, you're right. Now, we'll see if A&M can come back and win. We will see about Wisconsin. Who else is on the ropes right now that shouldn't be? I can't remember, but there's a couple more. So, yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Washington State, are you kidding me? At Wisconsin? That is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, Notre Dame went down.
Yeah, and then Alabama almost went down.
Almost went down.
It'll be interesting to see the ratings next week. The game here, this will be the last game other than when they play Kansas. Is going to be, not a lot of excitement, I think.
Yeah.
You got to go through what they did last week against a team that was so much better. And it was a clean game. So, you don't have a lot of penalties, turnovers. So I think you want to see that again for a game two. You just
especially because Kent State's defense is not any good at all.
No. And you don't, that's what I'm sure Nick Saban going nuts with the penalties today.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous the amount of penalties.
Yeah. So you want to see a clean game. You want to see if there are any more young people that get in the game earlier,
right?
To see if, because like I said, it comes up. They go Nebraska next week, Kansas State comes here, then the TCU, and then Texas. So
yeah,
all of a sudden the real football starts.
You and I talked about it many, many times on the radio about the running back situation. Very rarely does a third-team running back play unless there's injuries, and there aren't a whole bunch of injuries usually. So, what are they going to do with this young kid who just looks incredible?
I think they want to see if he's a second or first-team running back.
I do, but but here's the thing. They've talked really, really well about the other two as well. So who's going to lose the carries if he gets more?
That's why I think tonight's one more interesting thing. Does he get in before mop-up duty? If he doesn't, then I think it's going to be pretty tough to knock out one of those other two guys.
Yeah.
Because I think, and we said last week, both those guys ran well last week.
No, listen, they all look good. Everybody looked good. And I would assume that all of them are going to look good today. But when Barnes got the ball in his hands, he just looked a little different. Just looked a little like we talked about Ewers. Like we talked about Ewers today. He looked different. And it just looks like that Daniels kid up in Stillwater, the defensive back, he looks different. And I think that Barnes does too. But look, the other two are really good. We'll see. Gray for the first time I thought looked really good between the tackles. So they're loaded. All right, Al, give me a score in both places.
I'm going to go 52-21. I think that Kent State's going to score. Their offense is pretty good. Their defense is horrific. So I think it's going to be a tough game for OU to cover today. So I just think OU's firepower and going against Kent State's really bad defense adds up to a lot of points for Oklahoma.
We're in the same area. I'm going 55-24, so we're right in the exact same area. I do think OU can score 60 and has a legitimate chance. And what are you doing? Pick the Stillwater game. Who do you like up there?
I like Oklahoma State. By I'm going to go 35 to let's go 35-17.
All right, very good. Gideon, we will throw it to you and Rashawn. I'm picking OSU in this game to cover and win. I truly believe that I don't know. They got to be disgusted with what happened in the second half of that game defensively. So I would think that they'll play better. I think we all agree, Gideon, they're not going to be as good as they were last year. But I still think they got a tremendous front, and we'll see about some of those guys. And I don't know. I'd like to hear Rashawn Woods and you comment a little bit more on the Daniels kid because that kid looks like he's got a really, really good chance to be something good up there.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Jim.
All right, fellas, we'll be back right after the OU game. See ya.
All right. The Jim Traber Al Leschbeck Campus Corner there. Gideon Hamilton, Rashawn Woods inside the RV General Store mobile studio right across the street from Eskimo Joe's, part of Joe State Tailgate. Got a 2002 reunion coming up here with our good friend Sam Mays. Going to hop on with us here in just a couple of minutes. Real quick, couple of things we haven't talked about during the show so far. Running the football today for Oklahoma State. What do you think week one? What do you think they can do better today?
Yeah, I just think the way they were played defensively, it lended to them those guys throwing the ball down the field.
Okay.
I mean, I think Oklahoma State wants to run the football. There's no question about that. But when you start getting into going fast, a lot of RPOs and those things of those nature involved. A lot of times the read was to throw the football out in the run pass option, and that took carries out of Dominic Richardson's hands. But in my mind, I think Dominic Richardson is a ball player. I've said that many times. Yeah, he can go, man. And so it all depends on how they play. If Arizona State says they come out and say, hey, we're going to put enough guys in coverage to make sure that we're not going to be thrown up and down the field on, then you can expect Dominic Richardson to get more carries. Okay? And once that happens, he's a phenomenal electric player. He's physical. He's got the moves that he needs to be successful in this league, and I think he's going to have a good game.
And something we talked extensively about in our pregame show to Week 1 prior to that game against Central Michigan. It was state of football in the Big 12 realignment, Oklahoma State's place in it. I wanted to get your thoughts. Of course, the guys brought up the fact that Arizona State might be a team that is in the big whatever this is a few years on down the road. It's difficult to predict right now, but as the state of play is, knowing that OU and Texas are going to leave Oklahoma State, I think this is a very important time in the program's history to sort of plant their flag and say, hey, when you think about Big 12 football, you think about OSU. They can do that in the next few years.
That's exactly right, because if you go and you're in the Big 12 title game, okay, that puts you in a top position when the realignment happens. And that's where you want to be. And Oklahoma State is in a great position to be able to do that. And that really goes for everybody in the Big 12. And I think overall, even the teams that we know that are coming to the Big 12 right now, like the Cincinnati's and UCF's. Yeah. You want to see those guys have success too. But, just because of the prestige of the programs, that kind of deal as far as Big 12 strength overall is going to take a little bit of time to really, really take hold in this league. But when you talk about the Arizona States and you talk about the other teams out of the Pac-12 joining the Big 12, I just think that from a fan's perspective, we all love that. But when you heard those guys, you heard Al and those guys talk about it with the playoff, adding more teams or more games, is that really a better thing from that point of view for the Big 12 overall? And, I didn't really think of it that way. I was more along the lines of a fan, just wanted to see the Big 12 expand to 16 teams and so on and so forth. But I think still, even with thinking about it all, in the long run, having more teams is going to be better. You have to think that over time, just by the law of it, the teams that are dominant right now may not necessarily be dominant 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And so if you have more teams, just like with anything else, whether you're playing a lottery or anything, if you got more teams, you got more cards, you got more hands, right? It bodes well for you down the road. It bodes well for you as the dollars and the TV industry and so on and so forth. When that does happen, when you have more teams, it bodes well in that aspect. And so just so many things, could possibly happen in that time. And there's positives and negatives to both.
We'll come back. We'll bring in Sam Mays, have a little mini 2002 reunion here on Countdown to Kickoff as we get set for OSU Arizona State inside Boone Pickens Stadium, 6:30 tonight on ESPN2. We're just about an hour away, 98.1 FM, WWLS, the Sports Animal.